Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly analysis session for Friday the 1st, April 2016. This is for the Australian market session. Apologies for delivering this late. I have had some troubles with Camtasia and my computer freezing up and causing all sorts of dramas on a Friday night. Nevertheless, let's get underway. First and foremost, if my computer will work, there we go. Our disclaimer: the content of today's presentation or any other Elite Traders Club material does not constitute a recommendation, nor does it take into account your investment objectives, your financial situation, nor particular needs. So as always, before making an investing decision based on the general advice presented in any of our presentations, please consider whether the advice is appropriate in light of your financial circumstances or seek further advice on its appropriateness. All right, that underway. Obviously, the agenda for this week. Let's go through and we'll have a look at what has happened on the Australian market this week with respect to the benchmark indice, the ASX 200 that is, and we'll look at any new specific setups, and we'll also go through and track the watch list to see if there's been any amendments or any changes to that as well. Our market risk for the time being, we were last week into a moderate market risk, and you might remember that at the time I was saying that we were just tilting over a little bit, and certainly a little bit towards the lower side of moderate market risk. The weak market this particular week has now seen us move down even further than we were at the beginning of the week, and now we've just ticked down into high risk market mode. So again, just needing to make sure that everybody's comfortable with what that means for their portfolios. Effectively, what it does mean that if you are starting your investments from scratch now, that you would only be allocating effectively 40% of your capital to the market. That's the easiest way to think about it when you're dealing with direct shares. You might remember that our maximum allowable drawdown when we're dealing with our Australian portfolio is generally around about 15% for most people. And if we're using the value at risk model, then what we choose to do is apply this 40% market risk multiplier now that we're in high risk, apply that to our 15% maximum allowable drawdown, and that really means that we're only allowed to have 6% value at risk in the market. As I said, the easiest way to think of this in terms of your overall portfolio, if you're starting out, only allocating 40% of your capital to the market, and that would make sense from this point of view if you're thinking about the overall where the market is and the index in terms of where it's been over the last 6, 12, 18 months. And certainly those of you who've been part of the Elite Traders Club for that period of time would appreciate that, I'm sure. All right, so we've had a bit of a look there at the market risk and what it means in terms of our allocation of capital. Let's go through now and have a look at what the index is actually doing. So what I'll do there is I'll bring up beyond charts there and have a look at our XJO, which is the ASX 200 index. Really interesting, again, observing what the market's doing in relation to this, this longer term 125-day moving average. Again, this is applied on a daily basis, but over the longer term tends to work reasonably well. You can even use a 200-day moving average if you like, or even out further a 250-day if you really wanted to. But certainly, every time we've come up to this sort of level, we've really sort of struggled at that level. Whilst we've closed above it, once we found support at that level, we really haven't followed through with any conviction. So it really just tells us that there is this overarching zone of supply that we've got to contend with, and until we can really strip that supply away, the market's really going to struggle to get confidently above that 5200 level. Interesting to see that the volatility just of late is starting to increase there. The blue line there being the longer term average of that percentage volatility as well. So that's what the Australian market's doing at this point in time. In terms of new setups this week, there was only one that I could find. It is on a fairly low-priced stock, so you just need to be mindful of that. But in terms of price action, or in terms of going through our trading plan and ticking the boxes, moving averages are all in the right alignment. They're all starting to diverge, which is a good sign. Relative strength, short, medium, and longer term have been positive, above the zero line for quite a period of time now. So again, showing good relative strength. Price action here, look at that last trough, well clear of the second from last medium term peak. There's the last medium term peak, there's the second from last medium term peak. So ticking the box there. All we need to think about is there any overhead resistance, and you'll see that I've drawn a line in here. There is a long-term peak back in March of 2011. It's way up at just above 18.5 cents. So in terms of risk to reward, we've got at least a minimum of 2 to 1 to that particular level. You'll notice that that last candle, very strong candle given what our market has done this last week. So that's a positive, a big plus for this particular stock. So the on-stop order for this, 0.5% above the high of that last candle. That last candle was at 11 cents. So we have an on-stop order at 11.1 cents. And our stop loss needs to be at least 0.5% below that last medium-term trough and at least 2 ATRs away from our entry level. So the stop loss there coming in at a little under 8.5 cents. That was the only setup for this particular week on the Australian market. As far as trailing of stops, GMM, you'll see there has had it stopped, the little green line there, trailed up a little bit further this particular week. So again, moving along very nicely. PLS was another one, Pilbara Minerals, and I'll just pop on that trailing stop as well, and you'll be able to see that that last candle, very strong candle there, moving upwards in the right direction as well. The other stock that had its stop trail this week was AOG, and we'll just bring that one up as well and have a quick look at it. And you'll see again this last week gapping up on the open again and closing higher than what it opened as well. So again, in terms of relative performance, again you can see that for a long period of time now. Well in excess of the last 12 months, this stock has been outperforming in all three time frames. So certainly, one to have in a longer term portfolio, and it's been performing well. There was one stock that is now in the opens list, and that is ALU. I might have to bring that up as a separate one there. I don't think I've added it just yet. ALU, so we'll go through and have a look at that, because that was one that was on last week's list. So ALU there, and if we just zoom in, coming up to pretty much all-time highs now, and it just triggered in during the course of this last week. We had a non-stop order at 594, and you'll see that the high there was at 596. So that one has now been triggered and is part of the watch list as well. So we've had 3 trailed stops. We've had one setup that has triggered. For the rest of the pendings, they are still pending at this point in time. There's been no cancellations. ARF is still a valid setup. ALU, that's the one that has triggered, so I'll just add that to the open watch list now. So I'll put that there in the ASX opens. So you'll see that's now gone into that particular watch list, which is a good sign. Now what we might also do is let's auto hide that so we can have a look at the rest of the pending ones. ABC, we had to wait until we get to 518. The high last week was 517, so that one hasn't triggered yet. It is still pending. JB, moving in the right direction. Certainly a good candle compared to what the rest of the market did during the course of this week, but is yet to trigger as well. So that's still pending for the time being. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up for the ASX this particular week. I will be holding a webinar on Monday afternoon for the US markets. So in the meantime, I hope this webinar finds you well. Again, if you've got any questions or queries, please don't feel as though you're a stranger. Jump on the phone or certainly shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to get in touch with you at your convenience. All right, have a good weekend, and bye for now.